Welcome to the league with your host, Benoit Thanjan. You might know me as the Solar Maverick, and David Magid. It is Friday, April 10th, 2026. You give us 5 minutes, we give you the latest clean energy trends. Well, on the national picture, the U.S. Energy Information Administration, EIA, said that developers plan to add a record 86 gigawatts of new utility scale power capacity to the grid in 2026. And the majority of that is from solar. Solar is taking more than half of that. Solar alone is projected to be 43.4 gigawatts. That's 51% of all new capacity coming online. It's a 60% jump from 2025. Battery storage takes another 28%, wind 14%. Fossil fuels, not really not much happening with fossil fuels. Renewables plus storage could make up 90% of every new megawatt added in the US. And it's actually concentrated solar in four states, Texas leading with about 40%, followed by Arizona, California, and Michigan. One standout project in Texas, it's called the Tuhana Creek Project. It's actually 837 megawatt solar farm paired with storage. It's amazing to me like how these projects are getting bigger and bigger. We're obviously seeing a lot of development of solar in 2026 because of the big, beautiful bill that was passed in 2025 on July 4th. It was signed by President Trump. So everyone's rushing to build these projects to get the full investment tax credit. And then, you still could build into 2026 if you have met the sort of construction thresholds. But I think when we go into 2027, it'll be a lot more complicated because you're not going to get potentially the full ITC. Also, people are still trying to figure out the foreign entity of concern. But at the end of the day, solar is the cheapest form of electricity, the fastest to come online. Obviously, we talked about policy shifts in Washington. Also, market and state momentums are also challenging and depending on the state, creating market growth. It's obviously challenging with permitting interconnection, but it's also with all this solar and renewable energy coming online, it's allowing for lower pricing and thousands of new jobs. And the second topic that I was going to talk to, which is obviously great, is what's happening with the California community solar market. Um, I'm very familiar with this market because we've tried to develop early in the California community solar market. But just last week, the Public Utilities Commission dropped a proposed decision that has the solar industry up in arms. They're pushing compensation based on a low wholesale rate and shot down the better tariff that would actually value solar and storage properly. If you're from New York, it was called, well, California, they call it the NVBT, which was similar to the VETR in New York. Groups like CSA, this basically guarantees no community solar gets built. California had a potential program for community solar of 7 gigawatts that was basically said no by the California PUC back in May of 2024. That would have actually led to roughly $20 billion in local economic activity, all private money and tens of thousands of jobs. Basically, CCSA came out with an analysis that said that one community solar project, 5 megawatts AC, basically develops $14 million of economic opportunity and jobs. And that's private money, that's not outside money. The great thing, if you're not familiar with community solar, these are small distribution level projects and they actually allow greater reliability with the grid. The offtake for the energy is actually sold predominantly in most states to low moderate income households at a 20 to 30% discount. This is what politicians love because it creates local jobs and also gives discounted renewable energy to low moderate income communities. Unfortunately, I don't see the California Community Solar Program coming online anytime soon. Unfortunately, both the federal and the state governments are, and especially in California, are dominated by special interest. Obviously, the utilities, this hurts their model, having community solar. And I don't think it's going to change because they obviously donate to a lot of the, um, state level government officials in the state of California. But I do think if electricity prices retail continue to accelerate, the consumers continue to have to pay, that maybe the new governor of California, Governor Newsom's term is ending this year, and obviously he has plans to run for president of the United States, even though he hasn't officially declared. But hopefully, the new governor of California looks at this as a potential way to lower the customer burden for the residential customer. And that's that.
Oh, thanks, Benoit. What great context, and hopefully these Californians get their act together. They're really slacking over there.
It's interesting. Texas is the number one state for solar, and it's because of the economics. Solar and storage is the cheapest form and fastest to come online. And California, no matter what they say, is lagging behind and not looking at the ratepayer first.
Absolutely. Free market principles 101.
Definitely, seriously.
So, really interesting topics that we're going to be speaking about today. The New York ISO had issued phase two cluster study results. Now, this is the first cluster study from 2024 that actually is being released, from the FERC 2023 order of maneuvering to this cluster study mechanism. 70 projects that had been within this cluster study have all released what's called the SDU costs, and it's over $2 billion in cost of upgrades to the infrastructure that are required. This infrastructure dollars are required for all of the generation in this cluster study to be able to deliver capacity into the capacity market. What is actually going to happen in practice is that a majority of these projects are either not going to get built, or they are either, if they can, are going to get built without having what's called CRIS rights. CRIS rights is those deliverability rights to participate in the capacity market. And the way that that works is you can have 100 megawatts of a battery energy storage facility and only 20 megawatts worth of capacity rights. So you're only getting capacity revenue for that 20 megawatts, and you're really relying on energy arb or other revenue streams for the remaining 80 megawatts of capacity. So really interesting, just goes to show of some of the challenges when you're dealing with the infrastructure of an aging system, and the fact that even adding generation does not solve it. It really goes back, to the transmission system and making sure these upgrades are put in place. So to be seen, this cluster study, all these interconnection agreements should be expected to be executed, this year, as the next cluster study opens. And that's the New York State market. As you go through here, we're going to be sharing some more details of each region broken down, the upstate New York market, which is referred to rest of state, New York City, as well as Long Island markets to give you more of an analysis of what's going on here. Second topic is all too familiar with us in the renewable energy space. There is a nearly $20 billion data center project that is being proposed. This project is being proposed in Genesee County in upstate New York. The project is being proposed on land that is owned by the GCEDC, which is the Industrial Development Authority, and it's referred to as STAMP. This project is extremely interesting, has all the right characteristics to meet the infrastructure. It is facing a lot of opposition, and this is the trend that we're starting to see more and more with the data center developments, is that they're really getting a lot of pushback, even with mitigation measures, which is typical of the data centers, from light pollution or noise pollution, things along those lines. Even once all these items are addressed with proper mitigation, you're still seeing a lot of pushback from local communities of not wanting this in their backyards. Those NIMBYs are coming out, and they're coming out hard against these data centers. Anyone who's in development, knows that this is, 101. You're always going to see those. But what we're seeing is a lot of these projects that have been announced are actually taking a big step back because aside from the challenges with actually getting equipment, electrical equipment, getting RAM, getting all the components, the power, the other big obstacle is permitting. That's really causing a challenge to most of these developments. You've just enjoyed 5 minutes of the absolute best information in the clean tech sector. Make sure that you hit 5 stars, like, and it's also April 10th, 2026. God bless.
Yes, thanks for correcting me.